Hi everyone, good evening for me from India, and I know it's good morning for Lucy, and I think a good afternoon for Constantina. This is the open community call for the group identities pilot, which we're really excited and have been working on for some time now. Anyone who's watching this live, if you would like to join the video room, you can find the link on Discourse, on Telegram, and on the Etherpad, all of which have been shared multiple times. And we're gonna just jump right into the call. So right now we have three participants. We have Lucy, me, Constantina, and we're just sharing our favorite music. Good to know Lucy, Destiny's Child is a great choice.
Yeah, if anyone wants to jump into the Etherpad, please add your name and your favorite musical group, because this call's about groups. I thought it would be fun to share musical groups as our icebreaker.
And Constantina likes Muse. I think they're all pretty new groups that we like too, which is a good thing for us. So the idea of this call is just to, because we've put things out on Discourse, we've announced the pilot officially, and we want people to register. It's just to share information about, why do we think we need this? What is the background behind the group identities pilot? How does it connect to mission-driven resilience, which is something that Lucy will elaborate on in just a little bit. And just to ask any questions that people might have, just to clarify things. And some comments have already been raised through Discourse and Etherpad, but this is a chance where if we have some more questions we would like, we can address them, and they can be put right on the Etherpad, and we can talk about it as well. So I'm going to just give a little background on this group identities pilot. So this is something that the community development team has been working on since around February or January of this year. The idea was that from the mission-driven resilience, we identified 7 areas that we would like to work on, and the group identities was the first one. So the background is that the last few months have gone into talking to different community members, running a survey, which is also on Discourse and linked if you would like to look at what came out of the survey, just to understand really like what's happening, how do different groups organize, what are the sort of challenges, what's working really well with groups, where could they possibly need support, what is going on overall with the community. And the idea is to create a process that recognizes various ways that people organize and connect around Mozilla, and to emphasize inclusivity and provide people freedom to create and manage structures that reflect their interests and identities, because we know this is a huge community that's extremely diverse and has lots of groups that are already run, and I'm sure lots of new groups that are going to be started in the future as well. So just to create a structure that allows all of them to be on the same platform and embodies the CPG as well as the volunteer leadership agreements. Lucy, would you like to just take it ahead with a little bit more on the background of the mission-driven resilience?
Yeah, hopefully you've all heard about the Mission-Driven Resilience Project before. I've spoken about it extensively over probably the past year. Ruben and I even have a really lovely video on YouTube that you can find on Discourse as well, explaining the whole program. But this is a project that kicked off as a result of a whole bunch of research led by the Open Innovation team that started to realize there's a group of a profile of contributor at Mozilla, people who are really inspired by the mission, who contribute to multiple different parts of Mozilla at the same time or sequentially, and feel really connected primarily to the mission of Mozilla. And that because of how we've set up contribution opportunities in the past and pathways, it's actually been a very difficult experience for someone who wants to contribute to multiple different parts of the project. So if you want to contribute to Sumo and localization, you have to create a whole bunch of different accounts. You're dealing with different community managers, different structures, and there has been this real lack of unifying infrastructure. So as Mrinalini said, we identified 7 areas working with all the community managers of Mozilla, as well as a bunch of volunteers. We had in-person meetings, we did calls, collected a whole bunch of input. And group identities, creating this a way for groups to be recognized by Mozilla, to be like somewhere that's visible so that other people can find groups that they want to join, understand what the groups are doing, and connect between groups was really missing. So this is a pilot, which means everything is an experiment. It's all temporary as we get into some of the details. everything you see that comes out of this pilot will be scrappy and not super beautiful, but that's the point, is that we're trying to test things out and learn a lot. Great. Anything else to add, or should we dive into some of these questions?
I think I'm good. I think we can start addressing some of the questions. So the first one is essentially on what is the need of this pilot. So Lucy, would you like to take that question?
Sure. I'll answer, and does someone else want to take notes for me in the Etherpad? Well, here we go.
I can take notes.
Awesome. So this question was, why do we need to have this pilot? Some groups already have a lot of visibility. There are all these newsletters already. What's the purpose? So I definitely agree we have bits and pieces of this, but right now there is no place, there is no website you can go as someone who is new to Mozilla and find out who are all the groups in my area, what are they doing, how do I reach out to them, how do I get in touch, and to be able to jump in and start participating. You need to know someone or know someone who knows someone. You need to find the right Telegram channel to get into. You can't walk in blank and find out what's going on. So that like a central connecting piece is really missing. And that affects community. It also affects staff. So many staff at Mozilla have no idea that there's a group of people in Kerala, that there's a group in Pune. They don't know how they would connect to those groups or individuals, and it means that there are a lot of missed opportunities. Also, there's a lot of great work happening that never gets acknowledged and never gets surfaced because there's not these connecting mechanisms. So a few bits and pieces are there, but we really noticed that this was missing, and we saw it in surveys. Many other programs in the open source world have something like this, and we thought it was time to try it out. Hopefully that answers the question. Also, if you have new questions at any point in time, please jump into the Etherpad. We will also check the discourse.
Awesome. I think that covers a lot on the need for the pilot. I will just talk about the next sort of question, which was there are lots of common platforms that exist. So, and there are directories people have spoken about as well. So what is this new tool really going to be? Is it a Mozillians.org, but for groups? Lucy, do you want to just quickly jump in on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is going to leverage Mozillians.org. Mozillians.org already has some bits and pieces of this functionality, but there's not a system so that groups can create a whole profile page for themselves and then be vetted by Mozilla and deemed like, okay, this is an official group and shown on a website, but it has some of that. So what we're going to be using for the pilot is a super basic, probably like WordPress or GitHub Pages site that will draw from Mozillians groups. We use that API to populate it. So we're using Mozillians is effectively a backend, and this is going to be like a curated front end. So it enables us to put some of those other things. So instead of just being a tag group, you have to register and agree to the CPG and remain active and some other things that aren't part of the group system on Mozillians right now. And then based on the results of this pilot, we'll provide feedback to the Mozillians team about new features that need to be added to Mozillians. So what you'll see, it's a pilot, it's going to be really scrappy, and it'll help grow Mozillians' capabilities as well.
I think that pretty much answers the question about what is this new real tool going to be. The next question that we have is the term officially recognized by Mozillians was confusing to some people. So there's a question about reps, and is this the same as reps? And does it replicate what reps are supposed to do? So Constantina, would you like to answer that question?
Yes, just to be absolutely clear on this, reps were never created to be a groups system. Reps was to enable volunteers that they want to do community building in their area, and in order to help them do that action by giving them all the tools that reps have available. So there is no any particular collision between reps and groups. Reps about volunteers, groups about all those people that are working across the same idea, and they are grouping together. Groups already exist, as Lucy and Miralene said, and we want to help you identify those groups for both volunteers and staff.
Cool. So no clash with the reps program.
Great. And then there was a question about, is it like if you don't have Aadhaar, we don't recognize you as an Indian, that if you're not a registered group, we don't recognize you as a Mozillian? I think that's a really interesting analogy here. But for us, this is also a pilot. So we are only going to have 10 groups who are part of the pilot, and the others who are not, it's totally fine and it's okay. And the idea is that if you're not part of the pilot and if you're not a registered group, you can still exist. But as we move forward in the future, the idea is that registered groups will have access to a next level of support, which includes mailing list and potential funding, access to funding as well. But that's what's going to happen once this pilot runs. But for now, we're looking at just these pilot groups and how we can learn that what to create the best process possible for group registration. And it's similar to the Wikimedia user groups. And I'm going to add that link into the Etherpad as well to read. Lucy and Constantino, do you want to add anything to that?
No, sorry, I'm trying to help people to enter AirMo. No, don't need to add anything. Thank you, Melanie.
Yeah, and I would add that it's like you don't need to be a rep to contribute to Mozilla, but if you want to have like to be in certain calls, if you want to be able to distribute funds, you have to be a rep. This is similar for groups. You can be a group and do great work with Mozilla, and that's awesome, but registered groups will have access to specific calls, eventually access to funds and things like that. So it's an optional thing. No one has to do it. It's just a way of being more vetted, like being NDA'd for an individual. This is like a vouch for groups.
Great. So I think there's some other questions which we're just gonna that are sort of connected to each other, which are just clarifying some points from the discourse post, which is exactly what this call is for. So it's great that this is coming out. So the one was, what is the criteria to be selected? Is there any? So for here, we're talking about the criteria to be selected for the pilot, which is one of those 10 groups that I spoke about. So even to, there's a basic criteria which is outlined on discourse and on the group as well, which is one, that you have to exist as a group. So it's not a group that's been created just for this pilot. It's a group that already exists. They have at least 3 active members, and I'll just get into the what does active member mean after this as well. That they hold regular in-person or virtual meetings, which essentially means that they meet once every 3 months. They make regular contributions to projects or projects that support and advance Mozilla's mission. They work to create a safe and positive community experience for all members, and they respect and adhere Mozilla's community participation guidelines, which are the CPGs. Apart from this, so this is the base we need from every group to be eligible for this pilot. But apart from that, we're going to be capping it at 10. And that's based on wanting to ensure diversity of the different kind of groups that exist. So we want diversity in what the groups contribute to. We want diversity in the size of the group. We would like to have maybe diversity in groups if they are geographically based as well. So that's sort of, those are the parameters we're looking at to choose what are the 10 groups that take part in this pilot. Does anyone want to add anything, or should I move on to the next one?
No, that's great. I'm just trying to type out your answer.
Great. So what's the policy on multiple inheritance, single person, and multiple groups? So we understand and recognize that there are probably going to be, and we expect that there will be people who will be in multiple groups. So we're not restricting individual membership in any way. You can, if 2 of your groups are part of the pilot, that's totally fine. That's good to go with us. The next question was, what are these new support mechanisms? Why can't they be named or detailed? They can be named and detailed. The group mechanisms that we're thinking about is having, at least for the pilot, is having a newsletter that goes around talking about the different contributions, having calls that we've outlined as well, and then having visibility on the site, which Lucy talked about, is going to be like a test site or tool that exists. So those are the new support mechanisms we're talking about. And then I think there's a question on what is the structure, or is there an NDA required for this? Lucy, do you want to take this?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, absolutely no NDA required. So how this is going to work is a group will register. It'll fill out like a representative of the group. We'll talk about what the group is, how often it meets, blah, blah, blah. If the group is accepted as one of the 10 groups into the pilot, it will appear on the site. And then everyone will be able to register for that group if they are part of that group. So they'll be able to join. Very similarly to if you've ever been part of like a charity walk, your office creates a team and then you join as part of that team. So there's no additional, you need to have a Mazzillions profile. Actually, you will need to have a Mazzillions profile in order to be able to join a group, but you do not need to be vouched or NDA'd. Nothing secret happening here.
Maybe we can add that on the discourse post that must have a Mazzillions profile. We can definitely add that in just to make it super clear.
Yeah, it'll be part of the site. Like you won't be able to register, you won't be able to join a group without a Mazzillions, but I think it's a good point. I'll add it to the post.
And then there were some other points that are not in the Etherpad, but they came up in the discourse post, and I think we have some time we can quickly address them as well. One was about what does it mean to have regular, and how do we define regular meetings? So for us, we were talking about for the regular meetings that while the pilot runs for the 2 months, you have to meet at least once, and that has to be a decided date before you register. So if you're looking to register, just sort that out within the group. And that you meet once every 3 months, like I mentioned earlier. And for active contributors, we are not talking about any number of hours. We're saying that whatever your group's purpose is, that you contribute towards furthering that mission or furthering that specific category. And there was a question on the group representative. That person is sort of the point person of the group. They're not an elected leader of the group. They don't represent the entire group. They're just the ones who will coordinate with us because for the pilot to run, we need a point person to just give updates on what's happening in the group. So that's what the group representative really reflects on. And then there was a question on, can we not just share an active list of projects that are currently going on? And I think Konstantina can take that question.
I'm so sorry. I'm talking to the ERMO people in order to try to debug because people cannot see, and I'm trying to solve this for him. Sorry, Manalin, can you repeat the question?
Yes, no worries. I was just talking about there was a question on can we just share currently going on, and I think you've had some experience with this.
Yes, you're talking about projects that happen. We have tried to do this in the past. You remember Contribute Mozilla, which is currently very outdated. And what happened in the past is that Mozilla changes so fast that we cannot update it. And even if we keep it updated on our end, the functional areas inside Mozilla are not necessarily, unfortunately, built to keep up with the changes and help the volunteers in that project. So we suggested the groups as an opportunity to be able for volunteers to auto-organize around the projects that they love. There is of course, the Activate website that if you're a rep, you already know, where is a lot of activities that reps are doing. And there is also the campaigns that we're sending every month or so, which are activities around the Mozilla project. The problem is that we cannot send a full list of what is happening on projects around Mozilla because there are so many that it won't be scalable and it won't be a nice opportunity for the volunteers. That's why we're doing things like the campaign where we're sending volunteers to a specific action every month in order to be able to have a nice experience for both of the staff and both of the volunteers.
Awesome. I think that answers it. Lucy, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I'm just trying to capture notes from this. I think it's good.
I think I think we're done with the questions that we have. There's nothing new that has come up. I know some people have had trouble joining. Hopefully they can watch the recording, and if they have any additional questions, to add it in discourse, and we can make sure we reply to that there.
Yeah, and we'll take a quick look now at Telegram, discourse. We'll refresh all the pages to see if there's anything there. What I would recommend is that everyone on this call is part of groups. And I want to be clear about the definition because there are lots of ways that we organize at Mozilla. But groups are people who come together on a regular basis, they meet regularly, and they're working on something together. So, and like a project, like I've got a group called Mozilla Toronto, and I know that we're a good fit for this pilot because every 3 weeks we get together in the Toronto office and we talk about what we want to contribute to, and then we contribute a little bit to localization, a little bit to web compatibility. That's the perfect kind of group for this pilot because you already have a cadence of meeting, so that if that was put on a website of like, here's Mozilla Toronto, here's where they meet, here's how often, someone in Canada could say, oh, look, there's a Mozilla Toronto group and they're meeting this Tuesday in the Toronto office, assuming they're close, they could come and join that meeting. If the group never meets, it might be a community. So it's like a group of people that share an identity and share values, but never meet virtually or in person. And that's awesome, but it's not an entity that needs to be supported in the same way. And it wouldn't make sense to put it up on the site as something that people could join. So think about groups that you're part of that meet, whether it's very project specific or whether it's like a group of people that are connected by being in the same city and get together each week and contribute to a bunch of things. The big things are, do they meet regularly? And one thing I'll add is that once the group is published on the page, anyone can join. The goal is for this to be a way for people to register to groups they're already part of, but also for new people to find groups that they might want to join. So if you have a group of 5 people and you don't want anyone else in it, definitely that's not a good fit for the pilot. This is for groups that are looking to engage more people, expand their membership, and are inclusive and open to everyone. So I think that's an important caveat, that once you're part of the pilot, anyone will be able to join your group.
Yep, and I think that's important, just from the sense of we want there to be transparency in what the group is, how do you join it, and the idea is we want more and more people to be joining groups, and this helps grow groups and grow the community as well.
Yeah. Have we dug up any more questions on Telegram or anything?
No, I didn't see any additional questions apart from the ones that were already shared on Discourse. If anyone has, this would be a good time. I think we have about a minute or two if you would like to add anything.
Awesome. Why don't the 3 of us jump in the Etherpad? We'll clean up these answers and then we'll post them on Discourse for more discussion. And we'll share the link to the recording once it's not stuck under NDA, which apparently was the issue.
I think
Great.
That's good. Thank you.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Bye.